Fireside Tales. Hello. I'm Merlin, Mililli. Welcome to my fireside, where I tell tales within tales. And I almost always get a little weird. Today's no exception. And I drink coffee. And I drink coffee from my skull mug because I'm a deadhead. Every week I tell the story of the Grateful Dead, which is a little weird in and of itself. But I tell the story of the Grateful Dead because the story of the Grateful Dead is about reincarnation, and because I'm a deadhead. But the story of the Grateful Dead is about reincarnation. And every week I discuss reincarnation. And one of my goals with this show has been to enlighten humanity on reincarnation. Because it seems to me that humanity on the whole really doesn't understand reincarnation. I just said reincarnation a lot of times. I'll stop. But I discuss every week the Akashic Records, which are a meditative set of records. It's a library that you can only access through meditation. So I've been meditating and going to my book in the Akashic Records since I was a teenager. And I am now in my 40s. So I've learned a lot from my book. And I stick to mainly just my book in the Akashic Records. And I go there with my spirit guides, and I've discussed grounding before you meditate and different meditation tactics, smudging, so as to get the most positive outcome from your meditation. So every week I tell the story of the Grateful Dead, and I discuss my threads and my book. Originally, on our first show, I discussed my very last life, in which I had a connection with the Grateful Dead, which is another reason why I tell that story. And then, if you want to know who I was, you'll have to watch our very first episode. The premiere episode of Fireside Tales holds that truth. And then In our second episode, I went all the way back to my very first life in my book. And that was in ancient Peru. And then I discussed interdimensional travel and being a cloud bird. And then I discussed ancient Tibet a little bit. And I discussed ancient Egypt. And I discussed 2 lives in ancient Sumeria. And then I discussed ancient Greece. And I discussed my watermark in my book. There's the lives before ancient Peru, ancient Tibet, ancient Egypt, ancient Sumeria. They were all light and sandy and dry. And then there's this watermark. And then everything after the watermark is wet and muddy and slimy, kind of shiny, not dry and sandy. So I believe it marks the Great Flood. And it does mark when time changed from, it's right where time changed from BC to AD, which is kind of interesting. Then I took you all to ancient Scotland, and then I talked about interdimensional travel again, and I discussed Old England, Ireland, and Scotland, and interdimensional travel life, and then I found myself in Byzantium and Constantinople, which are the same region, modern day Turkey. And then I discussed 2 different time periods, by the way. Byzantium and Constantinople, same place, different time periods. Then I lived in France as a woman. I had bad luck as a woman in France. I was burnt at the stake twice. That was weird. Anyway, I told you we were going to get weird, and I didn't expect the fire to get in on it, but hey, why not? So, then I discussed 2 lives in Italy, and back to back, that seems to be one of my threads where I pop up again where I left off. Then I was in England. Then I was in France, or born in France, quickly rushed off to America and found myself in Massachusetts, died in California. Then I found myself in Austria. Then I lived 2 lives in Boston. Then I was born in Scotland and died in Boston. And the last life I discussed with you last week was I was born in the Netherlands and I died in France. So I have these threads, and one of my threads is being a psychic medium. I've been able to communicate with the spirit world since I was a small child and in other lives. So the spirits have a theory about reincarnation on the spirit front, and they say that they think that those who've been reincarnated have also been murdered. And if this is true, I've been murdered a lot. I haven't been able to disprove these theories. Certainly the lives in which I was burnt at the stake, I was murdered. That's murder. So I haven't been able to disprove the spirits theory. But my other threads are walking. Like walking far, not just walking. I still walk about at least a mile a day. I'm just a walker. I like to walk. And one of the reasons why I walk is because I've always kept dogs, and dogs need to walk. That's another thread. Is the walking and the dogs. They kind of go hand in hand, but even if I don't have dogs, I'm a walker. I think the last life I discussed with you, I didn't have dogs, and that was one of my problems. Had the artist had dogs, he might have been a lot better off. So art is another thread. Music, stars, nights with a K, nature, mountains, math, writing. And I'm not talking just writing. I'm talking writing books out, longhand, writing, full books that are in my head and they come out onto paper. Novels and things. Writing. I write this show. I write another show called The Love Show, and I write songs. I'm a singer, songwriter. I've written hundreds of songs and poems and short stories, and I'm writing novels now and plays. So, writing, reading, full-on reading. Always have to have multiple books all the time. And it's been that way in multiple lives. It's not just in this life, always. Push against the church. They seem to be the ones that burnt me at the stake. So I have a little thing with them, and I always seem to push against the church since the burning at the stake business. Birds. I've always loved birds. Every person I seem to have been has also loved birds, had a thing for birds. It's very weird. Angels also, huge thread. They seem to be involved in every one of my lives pretty heavily, not just a tiny bit. I'm going to get another piece of wood for my fire. Okay, don't try that at home, kids. I should have had a glove on there, but I have pretty tough artist guitar playing hands. So, where was I? Threads. Travel is another thread. And Native Americans, horses, oceans, epilepsy, Boston, and a deep respect for the poor. I still have all of these things. Boston is still my favorite city. I still have epilepsy. I love the ocean. I love horses. I have a deep connection with horses. They can hear my thoughts somehow. I don't even know how. But I've always had this deep connection with horses and birds and travel and angels, and I'm explaining every week a little bit of why I have all these things. You know, it's all making more sense to me as we go along, and hopefully also to you. So, as I do every week, and as was told to me, I tell the story of the Grateful Dead. I'm a deadhead, and I'm by a fire. It was told to me by a deadhead by a fire. A deadhead is a person who really loves the Grateful Dead. They are a band, 60s psychedelic rock band out of the Bay Area here in the United States. And I really love them, and I'm a deadhead. So I'm going to tell the story of the Grateful Dead. Once, long, long ago, there was a traveler. So long ago that she traveled by foot. She's traveling along one day, minding her own business, when suddenly she spots in the distance a ruckus. A crowd in a small village crowded around a dead body. And they were being loud and disrespectful and arguing over the dead man's debts and who was going to bury him. And who was going to pay for the burial. The traveler thought this was just atrocious. And so she paid the dead man's debts. And she paid for a proper burial. And she prayed over the dead man's body and grave. And she traveled on. Until one day, decades later, she ran into a life or death situation. Where out of nowhere, a stranger came, scooped her up, and saved her life. Thank you. Who are you? Where did you come from? Why did you save my life? The traveler says to the stranger. And the stranger simply says, I am the Grateful Dead. It's a story about reincarnation. I know that some people think it's a corpse, and some people think it's a zombie that saves the person at the end, but it's not. It's the dead man grateful that the traveler paid his debts and prayed over his grave, and he's paying his debts by saving her life because she saved his death. I wonder, and the more I tell the story, I wonder more if we don't need to be prayed over. If there's something to that, to move on, to reincarnate, maybe. Nonetheless, I last left you in Auvers, France in 1890. Today I picked back up in 1890, but I'm back in America, where I live today. But this is in a different body. In 1890, I'm born a small Native American girl somewhere south of the Four Corners, where Arizona, Colorado, Utah, and New Mexico meet. When I was a baby, we were forcibly moved to where the Hopi live near the Four Corners, where Arizona, Colorado, Utah, and New Mexico meet. The Hopi are still there. I think I was Apache, though. It's hot fire. So the conditions at the Four Corners in 1890 or thereabouts were horrible. They were miserable. I'm not gonna lie or make it what it wasn't. They had taken our hunting and gathering grounds. We had come from where, I'm not sure exactly, somewhere in the south, I guess. But I'd come from where it was green and lush, and we went to a desert where nothing was growing. And there was no clean water close. We had to go far to get water. I had a t-shirt. A yellowed white t-shirt that was on me for as long as I could recall. And then I recall my last day. I got a new, bigger t-shirt. white. It wasn't yellow. It was white for my 11th birthday. That was all I ever owned in that miserable life. My father did not make it to the Four Corners, and my mother did her best, but she was dealt a really bad hand. When I was 11, shortly after getting my new t-shirt, which I was so happy and grateful for this t-shirt. It was absurd, but I was so grateful for that t-shirt. But apparently I couldn't have a new t-shirt and a birthday meal. I had to get one or the other. So after I got my t-shirt, I laid down and died. I starved to death on the eve of my 11th birthday. That t-shirt had been my only worldly possession besides the small one before it that it replaced. I should have given you a tissue warning. Probably. I know I cried when I came out of my meditation. I had an 11-year gap, and I didn't want to look at it, but I did want to tell you the truth. So I looked, and I found this, and it made me sad. But I'm almost back full circle, and I'll make it this season. We'll make it back to where we started. And then next season, I want to I'll probably go backwards and then do a full season on each life and work my way backwards. And maybe, well, not maybe, I'm working my way backwards because San Francisco is a place I can get to reasonably from where I am right now. So I want to go to San Francisco and visit and record the show there by Fireside somewhere in San Francisco. Maybe on a back porch in July. Crescent moon in the sky. So our t-shirt girl, she will get a full season, and we will talk more about Native Americans and that thread, and maybe we'll go to the Four Corners and see what it's like now and talk to the Hopi for that season. But there's 25 lives here. This is my 22nd episode. So if I give each one a season, that's 25 seasons before I ever even get to this life in this body, which is rather interesting and would take a full season at least. further I remove myself from the story I'm telling, I think it's better for people. People have a hard time with the truth. It seems to bother them almost more than lies for whatever reason. I guess if you're telling lies and someone comes in and tells the truth, it undercuts the liar. So I could see why liars don't like the truth, but it seems like even people who like to tell the truth don't like the truth. It gets sticky. The truth is not all shiny and pretty like we want it to be. It never is. So the other thing we do here at Fireside Tales every week is we sing David Crosby's Deja Vu. Try to do it a little different every week. Try to get it right every week. Sometimes I fail. Sometimes I'm successful. You be the judge. I can get my pick out. Obsidian pick. It's rock, volcanic rock from my mountain. If I had ever been here before, I would probably know just what to do. Don't you? If I had ever been here before and another time around the wheel, I would probably know just how to deal with all of you. And I feel like I've been here before. Feel What's going on? Under the ground. Do you know? Don't you wonder? What's going on down under you? La da da, la da da, la da da da. La da da da. We have all been here before. We have all been here before. So I think Deja Vu is a song about reincarnation. But the phenomenon Deja Vu, I'm not sure if that is all about reincarnation. I think the little snippets of time that you've seen before, exactly, like someone passing someone, something specific, and you've seen it all before. It's all happened somewhere exactly like that, with the light the same, and I think that comes from our dreams. I think we see those little moments before they happen in our dreams. And then I think the deja vu moments are more when you go to a city that you've never physically actually been to in the current body you're in, but yet you've been there before. You know what's around the next corner. You know what the buildings looked like 100 years ago. That, I think, is from past lives. And that is a deja vu phenomenon. I've been here before. However, like I said, according to the spirits theory, I'm not sure everybody's been here before. I believe I certainly have. And I think there's a lot of people who have. So, I have a few more lives to discuss, and then we come back round full circle. So I'm going to go until the end of February, and then, shush bear, and then at the end of February, we'll wrap up the season, first season, and then we'll be back in the fall, and I'll go with my very last life, the one with the connection to the Grateful Dead, and we'll discuss that life a little bit every week for 20 weeks or so. So, like I said, I'll pick back up in August, September, and we'll run again until February, and then we'll go backwards. So we'll do that life, and then the life before it, immediately before it, and then the life immediately before that, until we'll finally get to ancient Peru. Now, I can't go to ancient Peru, but maybe in our 25th season, 26th season, I guess it would be, maybe I can go to Peru and film from Peru. I'm certainly going to shoot for at least one show, anyway, in the season. I'm certainly going to shoot for doing at least one show from San Francisco next season. And then we'll go from there. So not to worry, anyone who's been cruel to me in this life, I won't expose you for a good 26 years. Oh, so I guess that wraps it up for me today. Sorry I have so many miserable lives to discuss with you. Hopefully I can find positive things. That's what I'm looking for, is finding the positive in all of this. So as I look, we will discover together the positives about my miserable lives that I seem to have lived. Now, this one really wasn't as miserable as it sounds, because she really didn't know, anyone had it better than her. She didn't understand that there was this whole world outside of where she lived. She really only barely understood that she came from a green, lush place and was moved to a desert, because she was a baby when that happened. And she was barely a baby when she died. So we'll find positive things. I'm sure she had an art thread and made some things out of whatever she had around. She's sure she was creative in some way. We'll discover in 20 or so seasons. I'm sure by then I'll have found every memory and her name and, so much more. So I'll share with you in quite some time a lot more about our t-shirt girl. So thanks for watching, and I think that's it for me today. Have a weird and wonderful weekend. A Mililli Studios production.